Good morning, everyone. Lovely to see so many familiar faces all around. My name is Dr. Mark Ho. I'm President of the Australian Nuclear Association, and I would like to warmly welcome you to ANA 2025. Welcome also to the first session, which is about nuclear facilities in Australia. And getting right into it, I'd just like to introduce our first speaker. I'd like to welcome Dr. Miles Apperley of the Group Exec of Nuclear Operations, Safety and Security at ANSTO, which is responsible for all nuclear operations at ANSTO, including reactor operations and waste management, safety and high reliability, nuclear security and nuclear safeguards, nuclear stewardship, and ANSTO's nuclear-powered submarine working group. Dr. Apperley has over 35 years of experience in strategic planning and leadership of science and technology collaborations. He has established multidisciplinary collaborative research networks for the study of matter. Currently, he is responsible for nuclear stewardship across all of ANSTO. So please help me in thanking coming up on stage.
Thanks very much, Mark, for that introduction. And I'd just like to thank the organisers for the opportunity to present today, and just to reflect and acknowledge the important role that the association has, right, in being able to be a forum to provide a focus point or a point to communicate the good things about nuclear in Australia. So the ambition I've got today is to maybe introduce to some of you what ANSTO does. For many of you, I know you've got deep understanding of what ANSTO does, as you're probably employed there or you have been in the past, and just to refresh on that. But hopefully through that, there's a theme about the peaceful uses and the positive aspects that nuclear brings to Australians, reflecting a little bit on the last year or so, but also some highlight things into the future. I can't do everything from the organisation, but today just don't have time, but I'll connect on a few things. So just sort of kicking right off, and again, as I said, some of you will be know this. So ANSTO, as was mentioned there by John, is towards the southern part of Sydney. In 1953, when ANSTO was started and when sort of trucks started rolling out into the bush, soon after, it was a long way from anywhere, right? But now we have an urban sprawl that kind of comes right up to our buffer zone. But that's an opportunity, right, to ensure that we can demonstrate safe, secure and operations within the Sydney precinct. Most of ANSTO works, the staff, most of the operations are out here at Lucas Heights, but we also operate the Australian synchrotron in Clayton at Melbourne. So that's a reasonably technical footprint that we have there. So just adding on to John's acknowledgement that we're on Gadigal land here, I just want to sort of acknowledge that the Lucas Heights campus is on Dharawal land, and Clayton is the Kulin Nation, and we are very mindful of our connection to country and to First Nations, particularly as we have evidence in the buffer zone. That's a really good thing about having a buffer zone, unspoiled bush around us that really reinforces the presence over tens and tens of thousands of years of First Nations people very adjacent. I guess we landed in their space. So ANSTO is currently around about 1,400 people, employees. We have a bunch of contractors as well. We support around about 5,000 guest researchers to either the synchrotron or our Lucas Heights campus who come to use and do discovery research using our research infrastructure. I'm going to touch on this a little bit later, but we have rebuilt up our schools engagement program since COVID, and we're now around about the 15,000 students a year which we touch, either visits to site or online programs which are accessed around the nation. Nuclear medicine remains a big focus. I'll be touching a little bit on that again. the number of ways varies, but it's around about 11,000 to 12,000 patient doses a week come out of the Lucas Heights campus. And our silicon irradiation business is maintaining around 50 to 60% of the global supply chain for neutron transmitters and doped silicon. So continues to be a substantive operation. So if we lift the bonnet on ANSTO a little bit more, and this is really for the benefit of those who aren't so familiar with the organisation, but also to help frame that ANSTO is responsible for a diverse range of nuclear accelerator operations. And that really underpins what we do, but also what's leveraged in terms of Australia's nuclear aspirations going forward, the way that we can also project into the other programs in this country and also project into our region. I'll touch a little bit more on that. You can see a bunch of things up there. It was mentioned we operate the reactor, OPAL, and all the associated upstream and downstream operations associated with that. About $1.5 billion as kind of replacement value of our research infrastructure. I mentioned that's the 5,000 users who use that across nuclear and accelerator-based infrastructure, Clayton and Lucas Heights. Associated research programs across environment, human health, and materials science. Quite a strong environmental monitoring program and understand what's happening in the region around our buffer zone and what we're emitting, and make sure we're staying within and operating within our license conditions. Make a lot of radiopharmaceuticals, but then we have to look after the products, the byproducts of our operations. So we have a significant waste management capability, and then a whole range of other enabling capabilities to support those operations. So specialised incident emergency response that also is on standby and of benefit to the broader nation. A lot of training around our radiation protection, but also it's a high hazard environment. There's a whole range of WHS, broader high hazards as well. Primary activity, or one of the primary activities of ANSTO, is to provide expert advice to government in various forms. And of course, we need to maintain and operate within the treaties that the country has signed up to in terms of safeguards and security. So there are many parts of the nuclear fuel cycle that ANSTO dives into and gets engaged. Not all of it, but a substantial amount of it. And we've been doing that for 70 years. And I think the focus there is we maintain very much a focus on benefits for the country. So if I just dive for a little bit, and I'm not sure this may be a slide that many of you haven't seen. So this is straight out of ANSTO's corporate plan that gets published for government. So our vision and mission statements, nuclear science technology for the benefit of all Australians, is very much the focus that we have. Underpinning that, there's 4 strategic objectives. Broadly, I'll leave you to kind of read them if you can, but supporting and delivering on Australia's science and research priorities by utilising our research infrastructure and leveraging our own research programs, improving the health of Australians, so the whole nuclear medicine sort of pipeline that we have into Australia and also internationally. Australia's source of nuclear expertise, advice to government, and the 4th strategic pillar at the moment for us is workforce development, and trying to take a lead position in that for Australia. So the rest of the presentation, that's sort of the introductory pieces about what ANSTO is and what we do. The rest of the presentation is just going to dive into a few projects and things and activities that we've done aligned to those strategic objectives to give you a sense of what we do. I think I'll kick off, and I don't actually have a slide for this one, but the objective one there about research and research infrastructure. I guess there's loads that I could have pulled on to explain and highlight. I guess showcase what we mean by doing that. But one of the things now, and I know many of you are busy on socials, and you may have already picked up that ANSTO is present this week in Japan at World Expo at Osaka, where we're showcasing our food provenance research, a product there. So that's important, right, where we're using nuclear techniques, nuclear science techniques, to understand the provenance of food by fingerprinting and understand the signatures. So this was a capability that's been evolving and developing for over the last 8 years or so, and was selected, right, by the government to showcase nuclear science capability, our nuclear research capability, to the world at Expo. So we've got our Discovery Centre team there and a bunch of other people supporting that initiative, as well as the prime principal investigator of the program, to showcase that to the world. So before I kind of move on to sort of showcasing some of the other elements and activities that we do, I wanted to spend a bit of time on nuclear stewardship. This is I guess a definition or a paradigm that we've been talking about at ANSTO for a number of years, and led to us, myself in conjunction with the CNO at the time, to sort of put some framing around what does it mean by nuclear stewardship, because it's not that well kind of understood, and it's getting more of an airing now, and you'll see it in more places. But the way that ANSTO considers nuclear stewardship, it's the responsible planning and operation, the application and management and leadership of nuclear facilities and technologies. So there's an action piece to it. That's what we do. And then what is the focus of those actions? So that's to secure, be safe, ensure we're maintaining safeguards, and more and more, as you would expect, to be sustainable. So there's an action piece, there's a focus piece, and then there's, well, what's the purpose? The so what and the why, right? And that's to ensure that we can achieve maximum benefit for Australians, right? The maximum benefit of people in Australia around our nuclear science and technology. So our stewardship definition have those three corners: an action, a call to action, a focus on what we're trying to achieve, and then the so what, the purpose. So all that we do is framed in that, and particularly also underpinned by the ANSTO values. So with that in mind, I'd just like to highlight a few things. Some of this you may even be aware of. I wasn't at this meeting last year, so it could even have been highlighted there. I tend just to present a little bit here, not go into the detail, just to sort of flesh out what we mean by ANSTO being a great nuclear steward. So the first thing was, and it kind of finished about 12 months ago or so, and was a big focus for last year, was our kind of first major, longest shutdown since OPAL went critical last year. It was there was a whole raft of work planned and delivered and executed in that time, but there was two main components. Was replacement of the first reactor protection system, and also the cold neutron source in OPAL. But I just call it out here because whilst it's easy to kind of say, yeah, well, we did these things, there's a huge amount of planning there. There's a huge amount of interaction with our regulators, because not only are you planning and preparing and rehearsing for the technical, the engineering part of it, you need to then ensure that you're doing that safely and within what's been approved in our regulatory framework. You need to check the reactor configuration when you put it all back together again and get it working again. And so it involved a huge number of staff members over a long period of time, and really epitomises the stewardship function that ANSTO projects. As I said, one of the major parts of it was the cold neutron source replacement. there is a very comprehensive presentation prepared by Jason Tchaikovsky, who presented at Engineers Australia, I think in the July time. And if you ever get an opportunity to hear that, he goes through a very, very good and thorough presentation on the engineering, the ins and outs of specifically the CNS replacement. But there again, it required a huge amount of preparation, including mock-ups of the reactor to ensure we can do the training in there, to ensure that exposures to our staff are within the limits that we had set for ourselves, to ensure that we've practiced the engineering components and the technical components. And we had a way to deal with challenges as they presented us, because unlike, as with many engineering programs and technical programs, things come up at the time that you weren't expecting. So moving on, another focus that has been a big program for the last few years, and it sort of came to, well, it's almost its conclusion. It's gone over the peak activity anyway, was our most recent shipment of spent fuel. Just for those who aren't aware, the cycle of how OPAL works and how we have our sort of general cycle operations is that fuel comes in, we burn it up, we use it, and then we have to store fuel for a while and then ship it out on a kind of 8-year sort of rotation to make way for the next lot of fuel. And so we've had a series of fuel shipments over 70 years of operations for various reactors, and just in September, early September, about just over a month ago, we completed the 9th fuel shipment out of Lucas Heights. This represented the second lot of spent fuel from OPAL. It's a big logistical, technical and logistical operation as well, and on that slide you can see a whole bunch of federal and state government jurisdiction agencies that are involved, and of course, this spans federal and Commonwealth and state jurisdictions. So it all went to Hitch. Many of you, if you were sitting here thinking, I didn't know that happened, then great, we've done our job well, right? Because that is how we work hard to ensure that it just runs smoothly, and there is no opportunity for people to feel unsafe or alarmed about it. Just moving on to some of the capital type of projects, and I'm just going to call out a few here. I recognise on the program we've got a good presentation from Rowan Holmes later today on where ANSTO is at with Synrock. That will be a very thorough sort of overview of where we're at for a project, so I'm not even going to touch that. But I'm just going to call out a few others to further reinforce this stewardship notion, but also how it really lines up to our strategic objectives. So I talked about spent fuel shipment out. We'll be in the sort of 2035 time frame. There will be a return of reprocessed fuel from France that will store at ANSTO for a period of time. But there's other intermediate level wastes we have across the various other modalities. Some of it the product of nuclear medicine operations, some of it due to other operations. So we've had to, and we have a plan to expand our intermediate level waste storage capacity. Few pictures there for those who know the ANSTO site intimately. The red box, the green boxes are going to make some sense for others. It probably indicates, but we have some existing storage. It's coming to full. We need to expand. So originally, and just to give you a sense how some of these timelines can take a long time, originally we had a plan to start this project about 4 years ago. That's when we got the budget anyway. But in that time, we've had to change the scope a little bit significantly to deal with a variety of waste forms and to meet the needs of ANSTO. And help us provide at least another 10 years of storage of our ILW. So that project is now into advanced design. There's some conceptual picture there. I don't know if it's going to look like that, but it just gives you a sense. It's it's a large undertaking. We're probably looking at, I think we've got a budget there of $60 million roughly, but with the change scope, etc., we're probably looking now at sort of the $80 million project. The other and probably the apex kind of capital program or large project at the moment is the replacement of what we lovingly call Building 23, which is our nuclear medicine products plant, into a new facility to make our nuclear medicines products, I should say. So many of you know that so we irradiate targets in OPAL. They go to what we call ANSTO nuclear medicine, where the targets are turned into bulk and molybdenum. And then we send some of that off to a plant at the moment, Building 23, to be put into generators for technetium. We got funding a couple of years ago, announced funding a couple of years ago to replace our Building 23, which is an ageing old facility. So we've now well into that program, going to be soon start detailed design. It's going to be focused around three kind of core products, the generators, the technetium generators, and associated with that is we're not just going to roll out a production line that makes the generators that we make today, which is 20th century design and 20th century technology has been very effective, very good, but we're actually going to be doing 21st century design and technology on our generators. So there's an associated demonstration or pilot plant to help us with the design of a new generator. But then flexible production lines for lutetium and iodine products. We may be able to do other contract manufacturing. So we're talking about future-proofing. This is a plant that will have to deal with and enable nuclear medicine production for the country and internationally for decades to come. So, that is a big undertaking at ANSTO as well, and we're pretty much in a spinning up phase on that. So the last couple of minutes I've been focused on sort of hardcore engineering type things aligned to what ANSTO does. I just want to reflect on a couple of other activities as well. So one of the other things in our core objective is to provide trusted advice, whether it's to government of things or we project that into the region. And here's an example which was highlighted most recently at IAEA General Conference just a fortnight ago. So ANSTO has the responsibility to maintain a range of nuclear security science, technologies and capabilities for the benefit of the nation. And then we, from time to time, that is leveraged to build capacity in our region. And this is an example over a period of time how we've built nuclear forensics capability to support nuclear security development in the Philippines, but we've also projecting into other Southeast Asian countries. But it's a good demonstration in this case as a nexus between what Australia needs, how we can present that into our region, and also align it with an international policy and objectives, and that being the IAEA with a mission to improve nuclear security across their member states. So sponsoring training programs at ANSTO from which people from our region can come and learn about nuclear forensics, and then they take that back to their country to in fact build capacity, which in this case was demonstrated in a real-world outcome last year where the Philippines government, through leveraging their capability, were able to intersect a whole bunch of depleted uranium material, which was out of regulatory control, and understand how it got that and prosecute. And then that was, as I said, showcased most recently. So there's an example where ANSTO's expertise and capabilities, primarily originally developed for Australia, can be used to project internationally. Another area where our 7 years of experience and expertise is applied to a national program is in the submarine capability, and I know Jasmine's going to give us an update on that where that is all at the moment. But just to show how ANSTO is fulfilling its objective around trust and advice to government by supporting not only the ASA now, but all the associated organisations and stakeholders that are in that ecosystem. And so moving out into the industry players, the big primes, as well as the smaller companies, as well as working with state governments around a whole range of activities. A lot of it around public communications, social licence, etc., but also education and training, workforce development, and some very specific technical things as well. So we have a program at ANSTO. There's about, I got a small team of about 4 people who are 100% on helping government and supporting the various agencies on that. But they then leverage over 100 other people across site to funnel expertise and knowledge into the needs that government have, the agencies have in setting up the program. We've been doing that since well before September 2021, and we're looking forward to continue to support the program in any ways that we can into the future. I'm just going to pivot again and just kind of consider about that last objective that ANSTO has, which is about workforce and workforce development. I mean, I could have talked a whole lot more about the engineering work, the programs, etc. We've got a whole decommissioning program. HIFAR has now got a decommissioning license from our regulator, so we're planning spinning up the next stage of the decommissioning HIFAR. We have an operation. We used to have an operation here at Camperdown, a building housing a cyclotron. We're decommissioning that building. We've got campus renewal and a whole range of other activities in our minerals division, where there's investment going into pilot plant work for critical minerals. So over the next 10 years, there will be in excess of $1 billion of capital investment into ANSTO, particularly into Lucas Heights, and investment into the synchrotron will continue as well. And the way I like to consider that, whether it's new capability, replacing current capability, or dealing with legacy things, it's all about money being spent on the benefit for Australians, which is very exciting. The other part of that is our workforce for future, and I know this gets talked about a lot. And of course, in the Australian context, we have a submarine program which is spinning up. But ANSTO on its own has its also challenges around workforce development. If I look at the demographic there, a lot of folks moving towards the end of their career. We need to ensure there are pathways for early career workers into our organisation. And to do that planning and prosecute that within the context of national endeavour, the submarine program and the spinning up of that, and also what's happening internationally. We cannot be working and planning in isolation on that. So where do we start? Well, we actually start with our schools program, and I mentioned that we've been able to get that back up to around about 15,000 school students a year. And whilst that's really good and contributing greatly to STEM education and nuclear awareness, we also see it as being really important for nuclear workforce development writ large for Australia, whether it's the submarine program and all the associated supply chain work in that. So a couple of years ago, we did develop a strategic workforce development framework, a nuclear workforce development framework, which we're about 18 months into delivery. Again, this is probably a presentation in its own right, but just wanted to highlight that we have done some deep thinking about this and moving that now into implementation. And as I said, it's not. We have a view which is not just about what ANSTO needs, but what the national outlook is and international as well. We cannot do any workforce development without thinking of that context that we now operate in. And John mentioned the number of reactors underway. The UK with ambitions around net zero hinged on big investment in nuclear power as well as overseas. Yep, thanks, man. Happy to talk more about our strategic workforce. I'm just very, so I hope I've been able to provide, I've glossed over a lot of things. There's things I haven't included, but I just wanted to sort of present to you refresh in your mind what ANSTO does, see how it aligns to our strategic objectives, and introduce this idea about nuclear stewardship and the fact that Australia, ANSTO, holds that 70 years of experience of a diverse range of nuclear radiological accelerator-based activities means we have a very rich resource there, which we're leveraging for the benefit of the country. I just want to close on a couple of things. The first one is many of you probably knew Luby Dimitrovsky. Luby, sadly and quite quickly, unexpectedly passed away earlier this year. He was a great supporter of ANA. In fact, was a recipient of an ANA award round for his work, for long-standing work on radioactive waste management. So I just wanted to recognise that, and for the folks here who knew Luby, just again reflect on the great legacy that he's left for nuclear in Australia. We were deeply saddened by his passing, but there's many colleagues who have benefited from his work and his training and his mentorship, and that continues at ANSTO. And the last bit I just wanted to highlight, next August, 12th of August 2026, is 20 years since the first time OPAL went critical. We're just starting a planning process about how we're going to celebrate that and mark that milestone, and another brilliant example of good nuclear stewardship here in Australia. So we can do nuclear well, not just at ANSTO, but as a nation, and that will be another example to hinge on and highlight. So thank you very much for your attention. I hope that was really interesting, and I think, Mark, we might have a time for a question or two, but I'll take your lead. So thank you very much, everyone.